Holding AI Accountable, Benchmarking Accessibility with AIMAC. Speakers, Joe Devon, Chair and Founder of GAD and A11Y Audits. Eamon McErling, VP and Global Head of Digital Accessibility and Globalization with ServiceNow. Moderator, Corey Lyle, CEO of the Vista Center.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Corey Lyle, and I'm the CEO of Vista Center. We're the executive producer of SiteTech Global 2025. Our speakers today are going to talk about AIMAC, the AI Model Accessibility Checker, a wonderful benchmark for the accessibility of AI coding models. So this one's going to get technical, which I know a lot of our audience is really excited about. So I'm going to turn the mic over to Joe Devon and let him begin our session. Thanks, Joe, for being here.
Thank you, Carrie, and everybody at the SiteTech Global team. We really appreciate this opportunity to share our benchmark with you. My name is Joe Devon. I am co-founder of Global Accessibility Awareness Day, chair of the GAD Foundation, and with me is my frequent collaborator, Eamon McErling. He's VP and Global Head of Digital Accessibility and Globalization for ServiceNow. Eamon, would you like to just add a couple words of intro?
Yes, first of all, again, thank you for having this opportunity. I think before Joe goes into the technical side, just to give you an idea of the reasoning, I've been fortunate enough to collaborate with Joe now for the last couple of years, and ultimately we came to the conclusion that with the pace that Gen AI and AI in general is moving at, accessibility cannot be an afterthought. It can't be. We can't make the same mistake again. So the collaboration was basically, we were in tune right from the start, like how can we avoid that? How can we take the steps, not just at ServiceNow, but scale conformance across the board? And ultimately, the idea was at the foundation level, and the foundation being the LLMs. So the whole premise of AIMAC is really to set the tone at that foundation level, not only to improve conformance, but hopefully take accessibility to the next level. So I think that's just the overall premise.
It's exciting.
Thanks, Eamon, for explaining that. And we'll see how technical it gets, but I think it's really important to tell the story and why it matters to us personally, because in a lot of ways that's more important than the technical stuff, so that the entire audience will enjoy. So don't get too worried, and if we get a little technical, we'll just dip in and out for the people that might want to dig into those details, and you can always reach out to us for more, which a bunch of people have done, and we've run through it on a more technical way. So please don't worry about that too much. So now, Eamon, you and I have been on a great journey together. We've co-hosted a podcast with some luminary, fascinating, some technical guests. We've built this AIMAC together. But I think we should start with the personal. And you have had a fantastic career working at Apple, Nike, Royal Caribbean, before now joining at the perfect time ServiceNow, who is a leader in AI. And I'd love for you to share a bit about your journey at those companies and when accessibility became personal to you.
I'd love to say I got into accessibility for the right reasons. I'd love to be able to say that, but the truth is I can't. I got into accessibility back in 2015, about 10 years ago. We had built a program at Apple where we were working with store employees from all over the world, bringing them into Apple headquarters to do what's called our UAT, or user acceptance testing, for all of our retail store products and applications. Unfortunately, it was an oversight. We had an escalation for one of our store team members who could not use EasyPay, which is Apple's POS system, because it didn't have the features and functionality for her being visually impaired. It was I don't want to use the term light bulb moment, but it truly was an awakening for myself. Subsequent to that, we started bringing in and working with a lot of individuals with different disabilities, and it was inspiring. It was inspiring for me. I realized how much I didn't know, to be very honest, in that specific arena, and that was the start of my accessibility journey. Fast forward 2 or 3 years, 2017, joined Nike to lead quality engineering for Nike, and fortunate enough to have an awesome team who helped kick off accessibility at Nike and start to grow that program. And then that led in to where I'm at now at ServiceNow. But the one thing I will say about accessibility is what we're doing now foundationally in AIMAC, Joe, and what you've basically built is could be a game changer. I really do hope it's a game changer. I think there's two areas. One is conformance, right? Really embed conformance at the foundation and through design, through development, through testing, and AIMAC can help with all. But as we agree, we want this to be the catalyst for accessibility features and functionality and new ideas and new concepts. Everyone uses the best accessibility features, all of us. And we believe AI can really expedite that journey. And hopefully AIMAC will play a heavy role in that as well.
Awesome. And by the way, I think we forgot to mention that the format of this fireside chat is sort of, rather than one of us asking the other questions, it'll be a back and forth between both of us. So it's a little different than you usually see. And then Carrie is going to keep us honest. So,
Keep us on track.
yeah.
Easier said than done.
Yeah.
So before we go dive into or maybe a little bit deeper into the technical, can you give the listeners an idea of foundationally how AIMAC is created from a technical perspective?
Yeah. It might actually help if I share my screen. And I'm going to do this. We talked about how we were going to do this, and I'm going to do it totally differently. Sorry to the tech team here. I'm going to share the full screen here because that will make it a little bit easier. So the way it kind of started was WebAIM Million. They created a report that tested the top 1,000,000 websites, and they found that about 97% of them were inaccessible, and the top failures were low contrast text, missing alt text for images, missing form inputs, and things like that. And they have, sorry, I'm scrolling here. They have a list of 29 categories. And so what I thought I would do is ask AI coding models. And what I really need to explain is a lot of people might be using AI just to ask questions and help write a report or things like that. But programmers are using it to actually write code. And the HTML is what we are trying to see how good the HTML is by default when developers are asking for HTML. So since we already had some data from WebAIM where they have these 29 categories, I thought, why don't we go after these categories and ask these AI model companies to give us HTML around it. But notice one little problem I had was that one of the categories was adult content, and I didn't want our model checker to actually ask the LLMs to create adult content. So we just have 28 categories. And then there is an organization called Open Router that allows you to hit their what's called an API, to ask any of 566 models to generate HTML or code, but we're just testing HTML. And they are the only company I know of that has a list of top, that says these are the top models. So they have a programming category, which I'm showing on the screen here, that shows, okay, these are the very top models, and there's a way to programmatically get that. So what we're doing is we're asking the top 20 models or so, approximately 20 models, to generate HTML. And then the website is aimac.ai. And last night, I just updated the site with a whole new version. And we have this leaderboard where we show the scoring for each of these models across different categories. And literally until yesterday, the variance, I should also say, the lower the score, the better. So we have here GPT-5 Codex has a low score of 3.43, so it's the best model, and the worst model is 7.62. And it used to be a much greater variance, like 15. So it was 3 times worse, sometimes 20. It literally is starting to get closer. And then there's a cost for this. So the entire run costs $26 almost. And the reason that we're doing this by cost is if you look at the most expensive is Claude Sonnet 4.5, which scores 4.6 on the AIMAC score and is ranked number 10. That's a very expensive model. And if you look at the very top models are GPT-5 Codex, GPT-5, and Grok 4 Fast. They're all pretty close, but the pricing for the GPTs are $2.5, $3.5, or 6 cents for Grok 4 Fast. And you sort of want a combination of what is a low-cost model that scores really well on AIMAC so that you're not spending a lot of money in order to get the best results. So now I am in the weeds in this, obviously, having basically working on this every day, almost night and day sometimes. So I don't know if what I explained was too technical or not. Did it make sense? And if not, feel free to just ask me some questions to clarify any of this.
So I think the 2.57, is that per what?
So that is the cost. I'm drilling into it. And that is the cost for asking it to generate HTML on 28 different categories.
Got
So
it.
you can see the breakdown here. It costs 9 cents to get an HTML page for home and garden. And then I'll scroll down here a little bit. Here's the home and garden. Here's a little screenshot of it. And this is the actual HTML page that it generated, which I think is pretty impressive. I worked really hard to be able to get the HTML pages looking good. This is totally, we just gave it a category. We gave it a prompt, and then it just generated this entire page from scratch, making up all of the text. And then you can see the Axe report. Oh, I forgot to mention, we do a scoring of it. So once we get the HTML back, we send that HTML to Axe, which a lot of people in this audience will know, to DQ's Axe core, and we create an Axe report. And this is what the report looks like. And you can see the violations in here. So we count how many violations they are. And when it's a serious violation, we ding it more. Sorry, a serious violation, we score it ×2, and a critical violation, we score ×5, because if it's critical, it's really bad. So there's a whole algorithm behind it, and I'd be happy to share that with people offline. But I think if I go into more detail, I'll really bore everybody.
So it helps with basically doing the validations, the basic accessibility conformance validations like alt text and color
Exactly.
contrast, etc. What about as it relates to like being inclusive and making sure that we'll help eliminate any biases?
So that is not part of the benchmark because the goal of the benchmark, just to give a little bit of understanding, I'm going to go to a little slide deck that I put together. And what's been happening is Andrej Karpathy, who's a visionary and just an amazing AI luminary, he created the concept of vibe coding. And since then, it's taken off. And vibe coding is where you don't even look at the code anymore. You just ask AI to generate code. And so today, Cursor writes 1 billion lines. Sorry, this is already in April. Cursor wrote 1 billion lines of code a day versus 3 billion lines of code or so for the entire rest of the world. By now, we are writing a ton more code with AI than humans are writing. NVIDIA, they use Cursor. Every single engineer uses Cursor, and they're a $4 trillion #1 company in the world. And then you have 3 major AI model companies that created their own platform on top of Cursor and all these others. There's about 30, 40, 50 different platforms. And Claude Code is the big star for Anthropic. ChatGPT has something called Codex. So if you're not a programmer, you may not have heard of Codex, but Codex is a tool that I use pretty much every day, along with Claude Code. And then you have Google has Gemini. They have their own coding platform. Between these four, God knows how many billions of lines of code are written. And so with this coding war that we've got going on, we need to have the top AI model companies compete on accessibility. So the goal initially was sort of to get them interested in checking how accessible their code is. So we started by doing automated testing instead of manual testing. So just to give you an idea, the way that this code is generated, here's a screenshot of the prompts that we ask all of these different models. So there's something called a system prompt, which is just a general prompt. And in here, I'll just read the beginning. You are a lead web developer at a top digital agency tasked with creating a one-page website for a new client based on the following specification. And then below that, there's what's called a user prompt. And there is where we go into the specific category. And so there it says, create a complete, polished, production quality primary web page for a new client in the arts and entertainment sector. And it's a longer prompt than that, but essentially this prompt goes out to the AI models. And then after that, we get back HTML similar to my screen right now. And you've seen already the screenshot of it. And then from there, we send that HTML to AxeCore, and AxeCore grades it. Does that make sense? So we're not talking about the inclusivity or anything like that. And we're not doing manual testing, which is obviously much better, because this is easy for them to make accessible, because they can automate this. They can actually go in and install AxeCore themselves, and then generate a ton of synthetic data showing accessible code, inaccessible code, which is going to be easy for them to label, and then they'll be able to train their models better, and then they're going to come out with a much more accessible code base. And we are working on. Let me just see. I have some. I'll come back to this. We've got, for the next version, Microsoft has agreed to pay for a full-time PhD student to work on the next version. And we're going to be coming out with manual testing of form components. So that's going to be the next version of it. But the idea is first get the AI model companies interested in the benchmark. And then after that, once they pick that up, then we can make it harder and harder in order to make the AI models much more accessible. And we've already had some great success. I can't say the name yet, but one of the AI model companies reached out and asked us to run through how this works, and they said they're going to pick it up. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's exciting. Very.
Yeah.
Would you agree, Joe, that the feedback so far has been even much higher than we could have wished for, right?
Oh, I mean, I couldn't, yeah. I mean, the press that we've gotten, and anybody can go check out AIMAC.ai, AIMAC.ai. We have a little press section. So we've been interviewed by New York Stock Exchange TV. And then you and I have done so much media, I can't even keep them all straight, but we've been on curb cuts from a former Forbes reporter. We were in Forbes as well, and just a whole bunch of media. And yeah, it's pretty overwhelming. You sit there and code all this time, and then all of a sudden you're doing media, keynotes, and wonderful events like this. So.
It's awesome, but it's awesome to see that companies are interested in it.
Yeah.
As we started off this discussion, they don't want to leave accessibility behind. They realize the necessity of having it at the ground roots level, and hopefully the benefit of AIMAC. So it's been It's been phenomenal so far. It really has.
Yeah. And so, Eamon, I'm wondering from your end, are you able to talk a bit about AI coding at ServiceNow and the accessibility of it all? I don't want to ask you anything you can't share, so I'll just leave it open-ended like that.
No, no, absolutely. Excuse me. We've done a lot as it relates to trying and embed accessibility. I've overused this word foundationally, but embedding it the whole way through the entire product development lifecycle. I built my own accessibility agent last week using our Copilot. It's embedded within ServiceNow. And it's funny because when I utilized the agent, one of the references it gave me was AIMAC,
Oh, wow.
which was great to see. It really was. But apart from conformance, like I'm excited about AI in general, what we can do and what we're actually working on at ServiceNow, including new voice features. Yes, we've got voice integration, but we want to have complete voice navigation, voice control skills. The caveat there is we we never eliminate the need to work with individuals with disabilities. That will remain. And voice, as an example, we're making sure to work with individuals with different speech impediments, right? So that we do capture that we are truly inclusive. We're working on new preferences, new exciting accessibility preferences that will be AI driven. There's only so much I can share around those. But suffice to say that even page summarization is one I can share. So as we all know, screen readers can be very robotic. You can multiple tab hits. We're working on a new feature, hopefully in Q1 next year. Well, it will give the end user a verbal output of what screen they're looking at and really more intuitive, more personalized. And then that would kick off the reaction of the entire journey with the overall goal having a voice end-to-end conversational AI journey. So again, foundational is great. We want to get it right. We want to get it embedded, but we truly believe we can take it to the next level.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Um,
exciting.
I realized I forgot to mention one thing. Sometimes it's hard when you're demoing something visually to mention it for folks that can't see the screen. This is a collaboration. Building this is a collaboration between us, but organizationally, it's ServiceNow and the GAD Foundation. So that is really important. We felt that this was something that belonged under the foundation's auspices because this is 100% a nonprofit effort, and I think that it's really core to our mission, which is to change the culture of digital product development and to make sure that accessibility is a core foundational issue in as far as the culture is concerned. And with a lot of coding moving to AI, this is the way to stay at the forefront and make sure that we aren't left behind.
Completely. And at ServiceNow, we ultimately want to use it as a competitive advantage. We do. If you take accessibility to the next level, not only do you eliminate any legislation barriers such as EAA, and you open the doors and make sure there's no issues for new sales and new growth, but you can create that competitive advantage with accessibility. I think we need to continue to communicate that because that can help drive support internally, externally. It can help drive engagement with those individuals with different disabilities. ASL is another thing. We're looking at ASL integration, ASL to text. So it's, again, you bring in more users, you increase that overall participation in your community base and your user base, and then ultimately improve the experience for everyone. That's the goal, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And then before we end, I'd love to touch a bit on our podcast, but I will also mention an idea I've been sort of whirling around in my head for maybe phase 3 of AIMAC. I just did a workshop teaching people how LLMs work, which was great because that helped me understand better how they're built. And what I realized or have discovered is there's a data set called FineWeb, where what they do is they take the entirety of the internet and they just take out the text and they remove adult websites, they remove spammy websites, scam websites, and they call it FineWeb because it's a much better version of it. But when it comes to the AI coding, I believe most of what they are coding off of are the open source projects on GitHub. And it's a data set, again, called Codex, because OpenAI seems to name everything Codex. They have like 7 or 8 different products called Codex. And one of them is this data set that everybody trains their models off of. But what if we, as a community, built a data set of code that is accessible, or that labels the accessibility, or perhaps grades the accessibility inside of those open source models at GitHub, and then as sort of a joint effort, all of a sudden, hey, here's a brand new data set. So now the next time they do a training run, they're going to grab it off of what we've created, and then it's just going to make the accessibility of these AI models much better.
Joe, had the good fortune of interviewing some phenomenal accessibility leaders with the podcast. Any key call outs from your perspective from all of those dialogues?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was very special to be able to interview Simon Willison,
Mhm.
who he's not as well known in the accessibility space, but he's like an AI guru. I mean, everybody talks about the work he does every single day for like 25 years. He's been blogging about technology. He created Django. And the reason that I thought of him was that he would regularly speak about accessibility of Django and wanting to make sure that it is accessible. He always does alt text for every image, every post that he does. And so that was just a special moment for me, because I've been following him for decades, and met him at GitHub Universe and said, hey, why don't you join our podcast? But of course, I mean, there's just so many luminaries. We've had Jenny Leigh Fleury on. We've had Josh Miller from 3Play. We've had Dylan Barrel. I thought that was great at DQ. And so many others. I mean, no matter no matter what you do, you're going to miss somebody that's really good, because they were all good. But how about yourself? Moments that were stand out for you?
There were a lot, but I think there was one common thread was the mindset. Like those individuals with or without any type of disability, some of them did, some of them don't. But the mindset of growth and moving forward and flipping that from, some people may consider it a negative to no, we'll use this. We'll use this as a positive. And just that, foresight to understand, yes, this is a challenge that some of us have to face, but not only will we fix it, make sure we are truly inclusive, but we'll use this to take it to the next level. All of that positive, future forward thinking mindset. I think that was a common thread,
Yeah, absolutely. So we have about 2 minutes to go. So you want to grab a minute of final thoughts?
No, just a thank you to SiteTech Global. As Joe mentioned, it's forums like this that help us just increase that awareness and visibility around AIMAC. There was no discussion at all about making this open source. We knew right away we wanted to make it open source to try to have a scalable, positive impact. But all feedback is welcome. It's all about collaboration. I've been working in this area for 10 years. I'm still learning every day. I'm humbled to be partnering with somebody like Joe. But just thank you more than anything else. We do appreciate the visibility.
Well, I can say on my end, it's really been professionally a pleasure to work not only with you, but you have an amazing team at ServiceNow. I'm not just saying that. I wouldn't call it out if it wasn't a fact. Every single person that I've met at ServiceNow, the accessibility team are really top notch, very good, very technical, but also very nice and very smart. And, ServiceNow just acquired the company of a friend of mine in a previous life around the semantic web, like really tremendous hardcore tech people. And I think that they are at the foundation of the next generation of what's gonna make the AI hallucinations go away. Juan Cicada and Dean Almeng, those are two of the people that were in that company that was acquired. So if people are not aware, ServiceNow is going to be a big mover and shaker in AI, and already really is.
Yeah.
So just a little call out there.
No, I appreciate that. I'd be remiss to say it comes from the top down. Bill McDermott, Amy Lucky, John Sigler, all of the leaders they've truly stood up for accessibility. They've supported us for the past 4 years to drive where we're going. So it truly helps when it comes from the top down. It does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's a movement that we all believe in
Hmm.
at Vista Center, obviously, because we're serving those individuals that are benefiting from your technology and innovation. But I think that you two both are very special humans, and the work that you're doing is important to so many people, and you are making a difference in the world and impacting many, many lives in such a positive way. And we're honored to have you both speak at SiteTech Global. And so thank you so much for your time, your hard work, your coding last night to get ready for today. We really appreciate it, Joe and Eamon. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.